Hello, everyone, and welcome to Endless Becoming. So, I want to talk about something today that has been honestly an issue for me for most of my life, and only recently, relatively recently, in the last couple of months, I'd say, have I felt like I unlocked a whole missing piece that I want to share with you because I feel like for a long time I followed the guidance I was given. I did the thing I was told to do by society, by the spiritual community, by the healing community, sort of like in a way by therapists as well. Not my most recent therapist. She was freaking amazing. But I almost feel like I want to go back to this old model I had of doing these videos or sharing this information where it was bad advice, good advice. And I feel like some of the bad advice, okay, I'm going to caveat that. Some of the, like, it wasn't that I was given bad advice. It's more that I felt like I was only given part of the advice. And the part of the advice I received is that whatever it was that you're afraid of, whatever it is you struggle to do, I feel like in a lot of, I'm going to talk about boundaries because it's kind of related to boundary setting for me. I feel like a lot of the time I was just being told or I was just seeing things about, well, do it. Well, set the boundary. Well, you see something wrong. Well, take the action, take the action, take the action. And correct, like I do feel like that was very much part of the answer and the solution for me. But I feel like to really get a high frequency solution that is going to help me become closer to the version of myself I was put on this earth or I was supposed to be on this earth is not just about doing the thing, right? So I feel like I grew up probably in a very enmeshed family model, which how I define enmeshed, I'm not sure how psychologically they technically define it, but what I took away from the definition was like very interconnected emotionally. And not just in my family system. Like I feel like I think I learned this in my family system, but I have always been really afraid of people being mad at me. And even now it's something I really struggle with. So especially in my family. Like I couldn't really stand my parents being mad at me. And I remember a couple years ago, like my mom and I got into a bit of a thing. She kind of like, I don't know if she hung up or just ended abruptly. And I remember calling her back and being like, Mom, no, we have to be okay. Like we have to be okay. Like we just like, we can't be mad at each other. So tell me, like, I'm sorry. What do I need to do to make you feel better? Like, let's just be okay. Or I remember one time my dad, a couple years ago, again, this wasn't that long ago, was sort of upset with me for doing something. And I was like, no, well, you have to understand why I did it. If you only understood why I did it, you wouldn't be upset with me. And like, do you respect why I did it? Do you understand why I did it now? Are you still mad at me? And usually used to ask, are you mad at me? But that was always where I was coming from, right? So I almost grew up, I think, afraid to not do what my parents wanted me to do. And obviously, this applies in a lot of different areas of my life, but I'm just going to talk about family and parents right now because I do feel like there's a lot of people who maybe struggle with a similar thing, right? Like, I think I just grew up afraid of disappointing them, of not loving them, of not getting their approval because they were my parents, they were my caretakers. And while as an adult now, I can look back at little versions of myself and be like, Ashna, you didn't need anyone else's approval when you're little, and there are your parents. And, ever since you enter this world, they are the people who are guiding you, taking care of you, telling you what to do, what not to do, housing you, feeding you. I think it creates this interesting dynamic with little kids. And that's why I think as adults, we still struggle to do certain things with our parents because from such a young age, they were our everything. So I struggled to disappoint them. I struggled to do things that they wouldn't like. And that doesn't mean I didn't do what I wanted to do from a younger age, but it does mean that every time I did what I wanted to do, I was racked with guilt. And logically, I knew I was doing what I needed to do for myself. And one occasion that comes to mind is in my early 20s, I chose to move out of the house. I was living with my parents post graduation, very unhappy for a variety of reasons, including I just wasn't thriving living at home. And I didn't know how to tell my parents that I was moving out of the house. Even though I was moving out with my one of my mom's best friend's kids, I was like, please, please don't tell my mom. Like, I'm gonna tell my mom when I'm ready. Please don't tell my parents. I know they're gonna be upset with me. I just can't do it right now. Even though I was in such a bad place, I was like, no, like I don't wanna, I'll tell them when I'm ready. And at the time, I had confided in my aunt who I was close to. And then she ended up telling my parents, even though I told her not to tell my parents. And it was a whole thing. And my parents got so upset with me. And I do understand why. Like to them, it's like you've been going behind our back to do this thing. But to me, I was just so terrified of disappointing them. And I didn't know how to talk to them about it. Right. So I'm not saying any of us were right or wrong. It just was a situation. But I'm more so telling you this because even when it came at my expense, I was terrified of telling them something that could cause disappointment in me, that would make them mad at me, that would make them upset with me. So, as I went out into the world, as I started going out to therapy, reading the books, following the social media accounts, doing all the self help things, what I started to understand is, well, it's wrong to be so scared of my parents that I can't, tell them when I disagree with them or make a decision that they might not agree with. So, what do I have to do? Well, I got to make those decisions because it's wrong. I can't let my parents dictate my life. I'm in my 20s now. I'm an adult. I'm earning all this stuff, yada, yada. I got to do the thing. So for years, I did the thing, right? And it was very common. Like I remember I used to talk to my best friends about it. I'm like, I used to be so confused because I'm like, well, I do the thing, but I feel so guilty. I feel so absolutely racked with guilt. And my friends knew this about me. And I prided myself though on being so independent, on like, look at all these decisions I make, look at all these things that I do. But at the same time, I was racked with guilt. And what did I do with the guilt? I ignored it. I suppressed it. I beat myself up. I told myself, Ashna, this is not how adults think. This is not how you're supposed to feel. You know better. So I berated myself, berated those parts of me that were feeling guilt, shoved it down. How do you think that worked out for me? Not very well, which is now why I love to teach embodiment work. And I like to help other people feel into the feelings in their bodies before it manifests in physical and mental like issues. So, of course, that's what I did. But the whole time I was like, no, Ashna, no, girl, you fucking go, girl. You are doing the thing. You're setting the boundaries. You're making the decisions. Yeah, so what if like you feel like shit after and like somehow you don't feel good about the decisions? You're still doing it, right? And that's the most important thing, to take the action. No, obviously. I don't know if I'm painting a realistic picture, but it sucked. It fucking sucked. And I was so confused because I was like, I'm doing the thing. And I wonder for how many people they're out there doing the thing, but their bodies, their brains, their little them, like the little versions of them are like, something's wrong. Something's wrong. So how something that changed my mind like not well, I started learning about this recently last year actually, is neuroscience, right? And how can I started to think a lot about, well, how do people work? How does the brain work? I've always been very interested in psychology, but I never thought of myself as a science girl. But the more I've been learning about neuroscience, the more I'm like, oh my gosh, like there is this wealth of knowledge out there. And I just haven't tapped into it yet. So, as I dove into neuroscience, as I dove into how people work, what I started to realize is from a very young age, right? I'm telling you, I kind of started making these decisions for myself in my 20s, but from a very young age, for the majority of my life, actually, I'm 30. My brain and my body knew a certain way to act, okay? We knew that to be safe, to be good, we needed to do what our parents told us, that equaled safety. It didn't matter that even though that version of safety might have been rooted in misalignment, right? Like my parents, I remember one year they really wanted me to take these prep classes for something. And I just couldn't articulate it at the time, but every fiber of my body was like, no, 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 no. The school isn't right for me. It's not about the prep. Something about the environment I'm in is not good for me. It's not helping me. And I remember having this massive crash out, crying for hours on my grandmother's lap. It was all very dramatic. And she's like petting my head and she's like, you'll be okay, Ashna. And obviously my parents were like, what the actual heck is wrong with you? But I couldn't articulate exactly what was going on. But even though I felt these high levels of misalignment, ultimately I went ahead and I did that prep class because that's what they told me was best for me. And there was a safety in them, right? Like they, from a very young age, had been feeding me, housing me, meeting all my basic needs. So, on a very visceral level, my nervous system understood that parents equal safety. Even when I feel out of misalignment, I had taught my body and my brain that listening to them, doing what they want me to do, is safety, right? Is like getting my basic needs met, is like having a roof, having food, all these very important necessities. So that's what my body was operating under, right? And even though there was like a big part of me that was like, okay, intuitively, logically, this isn't right for me. I mean, at this point I was really young, but it it doesn't it does, like, even though there's this inner conflict in me, what ultimately would win out, what my brain, what my ego would tell me is, no, Ashna, there is safety in listening to them. There is safety in doing what they want you to do. So we got to do what they want us to do. Okay. So this had been ingrained in me from such a young age, from before I could think, right? It had gone into my subconscious brain, which I don't think I've really talked about this before, but we are only really aware of our conscious brain, right? Those are like the thoughts that are running in our head. Those are the things that we think we want, but it's our subconscious brain that is actually running 95% of what we think, what we do, what we act. There is so much programming in the backs of our heads that we cannot access. Consciously, we're accessing about 5% of our brain, and that's what we think we want. But what we actually want, what we actually desire, lives in our subconscious brain programming. So back in my subconscious from such a young age, I had all of these thoughts, these ideas, these beliefs around what my parents know is true. They always know best, even if logically and intuitively I know that's not correct in my conscious brain. It's my subconscious programming that's running the show. Okay. So fast forward to Asha in her 20s. I would do the thing, be racked with guilt, and then be really confused as to why doing the thing didn't bring me the satisfaction. I'm like, why am I feeling so shit? I did the thing, right? But but what was actually happening is by me feeling the guilt and shoving it down, not wanting to think about it, I was actually causing more problems for myself because I am not letting my emotional cycle, not letting my emotional processing cycle run its course. I am burying it deep into my body. I'm burying the emotion down. So what it's doing is it's getting stored in my physical body, and emotionally I'm storing those emotions in my physical body. It is causing physical issues. If you followed along, I have talked about how I was really sick in my 20s. Like lots of random shit would happen. I would get sick all the time, even though I was eating all the right foods, drinking the right water, doing the exercise, the movement, the yoga, the art, the this, the that. Yet my physical body was not okay. It was not showcasing everything that I was doing. Right. So I was shoving down the emotion, and I wasn't understanding why this guilt kept coming up. I was bypassing all the ways of being that had kept little Ashna safe, that had kept little Ashna protected. And I was trying to force this logic onto her, right? But what I realized was the missing piece was, okay, I know intuitively and logically that, for example, I don't know, let's say that my mom really wants to hang out with me and I am not feeling great. And I know if I show up, I'm going to overgive and I'm going to take on, like, I'm going to try to support her emotionally, even though I don't have space for that in my heart. My cup is running empty. So I tell her no, and she's disappointed in me. Right. I can still feel good about the fact that I said no. I respected my boundaries. I took care of myself, but I can also feel guilty that I said no and I hurt her. Right. And I think there's this like misalignment of, it's not just doing the thing, it's doing the thing, but then also noticing what comes up. Now, this guilt that comes up, let's like double click it. This guilt that comes up. Why does this guilt come up? I'm noticing that my microphone just died, so I'm going to just phone, and hopefully you can hear me. Bear with me. Little things like this happen all the time. I'm very notorious with technology. But anyways, what for a mid video, but okay. So, like I mentioned, we're gonna do the thing, but we still have the guilt come up, okay? Double click on the guilt. What is the guilt telling us? The guilt is telling me that there are little parts of me that still have not come to terms with the decisions that adult me is making. There are little parts of me that still feels and thinks that our parents, my parents, are safety, and everything my parents say is true and correct. And if I disappoint them, I lose out on my basic needs. I lose out on things like getting housed, getting fed, being taken care of financially. Even though I live on my own now and me and my husband support ourselves financially, little me, that little version of me, still doesn't understand that. Our brains love to run on predictive programming, right? So first of all, not only have I spent the majority of my life building neural pathways, my brain has all these beliefs and systems and habits that support the fact that my parents know everything. And if I disobey them, if I disappoint them, it's going to equal lack of safety for me. So that guilt that I'm feeling, that feeling bad, is because I know that if I don't do what they need me to do, if I don't give my parents what they want, it is going to end badly for me. Now, I'm not saying this is true, right? I'm not saying any of this information lives in that 5% of my conscious brain where I live in and operate out of. But like I was saying before, our subconscious brain has all the programming, all the habits, all the beliefs that literally run our life from the background, okay? So, and that's like this part of doing the thing, taking the action. That's what it doesn't support. I think that we are not being taught that it's not just about taking the action. It's about noticing what comes up and coming to that thing that comes up with love, with grace, with compassion, right? And when I started to make this switch of not shoving down that guilt, not pretending it didn't exist, but embracing it, lovingly asking it, hey, what's going on? What are you trying to tell me? That's how I started to rewire my brain, by understanding what's happening, why, what's it bringing up for me, and how can I actively try to switch what is coming up for me, okay? I feel like as I have started to come to that guilt with love and compassion for myself, I've noticed that over time, I have built new neural pathways, almost like if I have this neural pathway of guilt, like think of it as like literally like a tunnel. That's how I like to think of it, branching out from my brain of guilt because I'm not doing what my parents want me to do. It's almost like I'm creating subneural pathways out of that. I do not know if that's exactly how it happens in neuroscience or with our actual brain, but I'm just telling you how my brain, how it makes sense of this. So it's like I have this path of guilt, and then an offshoot of this path of guilt, like almost like imagine guilt, and then an offshoot of guilt is love, compassion, understanding that my brain has worked a certain way for the majority of my life. I cannot will it into changing. What I can do is little by little teach it how to actually react, how I want it to react, how to react in the way that is most loving for me and helps me get to where I want to get to. And ultimately, what is my goal? My goal with healing, my goal with even doing the things when I notice something is wrong, is to become the best version of myself, is to become the highest frequency version of myself who knows how to protect myself so I can go out there and be the best me for other people, right? Like, I think that something that is misunderstood about self-love a lot is that why are we here trying to put ourselves first and prioritize ourselves and draw boundaries? It's so we can nourish ourselves, so ultimately we can go out and be the best version of ourselves, so we can show up in the best way. I think that's the way I whether you use the word God, source, the universe, Mother Earth, whatever you want to say, the magic in the world, I think that's the way God intended for this world to be made, is for us to first and foremost take care of ourselves. So all these like doing the action things, all these like drawing those boundaries that I'm talking about, I do that so then I can show up as the best version of myself. And I realized that for so many years, I was just doing the thing, but not fully taking care of myself. So in that way, by ignoring the guilt, by shoving it down, was I actually prioritizing myself? Was I actually showing up for myself? No. But I told myself I was, because I was doing the thing, right? And I feel like so many people are misled and they think that, oh, if I just take the action, if I just do the thing, if I just like draw my lines, everything's going to be perfect. But no, there is so much healing work around doing the thing that goes beyond just doing the thing. I know I said doing the thing like 50 times, so hopefully that makes sense to you. But, oh gosh, that is the end of my TED Talk. And I hope that this was helpful to you. So for anyone who's on their healing journey, who is working on drawing boundaries, who is noticing things or noticing patterns in their life, whether it's with themselves or other people, that is wrong, just changing the habit or trying to change the habit, is going to be extremely difficult. It's going to be really hard to stick unless you work with your brain and you work with those parts of yourselves that feel safe with the habit, right? Like it's like, okay, like people who eat a lot of junk food, right? There's a lot of different reasons you can be eating junk food, but let's say it's to like feel safer, right? Like sometimes for me, even when I'm really stressed, I tend to turn towards sugar because it makes me feel more comfortable. So if you're just like, well, I want to stop eating sugar, and then you're just like trying to quit cold turkey, but like you're having all these cravings, you're not feeling good, you're actually maybe crashing out and binging out and going to eat even more sugar than you would. It's like you're shoving down the parts of yourself who want that sugar for a specific reason. You have all these like habits and patterns built in your brain that might equal, okay, sugar equals love, sugar equals comfort, sugar equals safety. And you're trying to bypass all these ways of being at a neuroscience level, at a human level, just to be like, because I want to quit this habit, so I got to take the action. Sometimes cold turkey works for people, but majority of the time it doesn't, and they end up backsliding back into that habit in a worse way, and they beat themselves up over it even more. So tell me, is taking the action all that it's cut out to be? Damn, feel like I went on this rant. Sorry, like I'm holding my phone now. Who even knows? I feel like it's shaking because my hand hurts from this, but my phone was too far, so I knew I had to pick it up, and I also could not wait to charge my mic, even though I did charge my mic before this, but you know, things happen all the time. But I just really felt like I needed to keep going. I was in a flow state. But thank you so much for listening. Hopefully the sound and the visuals wasn't too distracting. I just really feel like I needed to get this out while I was in this flow state. And thank you so much for listening, and I hope you enjoyed it. Please, 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 if you have any thoughts or questions, let me know, because I could talk about this a lot, and I feel like there's even so many offshoots of this that we could talk about. But I want to leave you with, give yourself a lot of grace, a lot of love. All the habits we have become habits for a specific reason, and our ego brain loves to convince ourselves that these habits are for our best, even when they're not, okay? It's what keeps us safe. It's what keeps us feeling good. So I don't want you to feel like you are less than, or you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, or you don't work hard enough. You do. It's just you have to learn how to work with your brain, not against it. And that is how you're going to see lasting change, okay? You cannot will your way into your brain changing. You can, but it also takes a lot of little habits, doing things little by little, and literally retraining your brain with love, okay? Coming to yourself with love and compassion is going to have the biggest life change effect. Okay, well, I hope you have a good rest of your day, night, week, yes. Whenever you are listening to this. And again, please let me know if you have any questions. I would love to hear from you, or if you have any comments or examples of this in your life, that would be so cool to hear. Okay, bye.